Ted Lasso with a particular focus on the wonderful women of the show. I'm Kristen Baldwin, TV critic at Entertainment Weekly, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Ted Lasso stars Hannah Waddingham and Juno Temple. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Hey, Kristen.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's a thrill to talk to you both. So Ted Lasso became an instant hit pretty much overnight when it premiered last summer, but on Apple TV Plus. But for those who haven't seen it yet, which by the way, shame on them, tell us a little bit about each of your characters. So Hannah, why don't you start?
Well, I think where we meet Rebecca Welton, she is the owner of AFC Richmond, the new owner of AFC Richmond. And we meet her at the point when she is in a terribly low, lost place. And to cut a long, elaborate, juicy, emotional story short, she sets out to destroy the only thing that her husband has ever loved, and that is AFC Richmond. He was the previous owner. She sets out to destroy it, and in the process meets Ted Lasso and is taken on a bit of a personal voyage of discovery.
Great summary. And Juno, how would you describe Keeley?
Keeley is somebody, she's a young woman that when you first meet her is, I think, easy to judge and expect to be a certain way, but she's a lot more than that. And she is in a relationship with Jamie Tart, and she has a great line in season 1 where she's sort of famous for being kind of almost famous. And that's kind of where she's at the beginning of the show. And then she also has an incredible arc where she learns a lot about herself. And that is hugely to do with Rebecca, and Rebecca being a female presence that comes into her life and actually really says to her, you know what, you've got a brain on you, babe. You're really good at doing this publicity stuff. Like, maybe you should do it as a job. And encourages Keeley to see a side of herself that maybe no one else has encouraged her to do before. Meanwhile, she's also, getting involved in a sort of love triangle, which brings in Roy Kent. And then I think she's also a character that is somebody that sees the best in people and wants to encourage them to see the best in themselves. And I think the relationship between her and Rebecca is one where they really kind of open each other's eyes to parts of themselves that have maybe been closed off or maybe never been opened before.
Right, yeah. She's, I believe what you call in the UK a WAG, right? Wives and girlfriends. She's a girlfriend of Jamie Tart, like you said, one of the players, and then she gets involved in another relationship. So yeah, she's a great character too. So Hannah, how did you get involved in this show? I mean, you're well known for your theater work. What was it about this show that appealed to you, and how did you get involved?
I think it was the fact that when I was sent it, I speed read it like an absolute lunatic, all the stuff that I was sent. And my overwhelming thought was, whoever gets this role, it's going to change her life.
Yeah. And
it made me want to rugby tackle anyone to the ground who was going to get it over me. And it's continued to be just that to me. I was right, because of the fact that I just often, I mean, it's really not a rarity. I often get to play comedy, pathos, and everything in between in one scene. And that's just, I don't quite know what I'm going to do. When I move properly off this onto another job, I'm going to feel utterly bereft.
And Juno, Keeley is a bit of a departure for you, right? Because you hadn't done a ton of comedy before this. How did this role come to you?
I had known Jason for a little while before this show came to life, and I received a text message from him and genuinely thought it was a mistake because I was like, oh no, comedy, interesting. Okay, well, yeah. So called him and was like, are you sure you want to send this to me? Are you sure this is the right situation? And he was like, yeah, I'd love you to read it. And if you respond to it, let's sit down and talk about it. And we did. And I went and met him, and it was a pretty magical experience sitting with him and hearing him talk about the show and what it meant for him and the journey that he wanted it to go on and the universe that he had mapped out in his head, and how how truly it really meant a lot to him. A lot of his heart is in this show, and I think that's a privilege to be asked to be a part of. I was absolutely terrified, and every day want to make him and everybody on this show proud, and still feel like I'm learning a lot. And I'm so grateful for people having been sort of patient with me for the fact that I'm terrified of doing comedy. But as Jason said to me before, he was like, don't do it, just play it like you would, and if it's written right, it will be funny in itself. And yeah, so I think, you know, having him believe that I could bring Keeley to life was, I don't know, man, pretty huge honor, to be honest with you.
And, you know, you talked a little bit about their relationship before. One of the first times we get to see Keeley and Rebecca together is in episode 3, when they're bonding over being targeted by the paparazzi. We have a clip of that. Let's take a look at that clip.
Remember when you got divorced?
It rings a bell.
Yeah, I mean, didn't it like make you really mad that they went after you and not Rupert? Because he was the one that cheated, and he came across like Prince Charming. It really pissed me off.
Well, the press are never awful to men. No one ever pays a fortune for a photo of a naked man on a yacht in Mallorca a week after his divorce.
Whoa, that's like a very specific scenario. Oh my God, that means there's a picture of you naked on a yacht. Can I see it? Is it here? Oh, come on, you wouldn't have said something if you weren't dying to show someone. Please.
I was taken from a helicopter while I was sunbathing.
Oh. Holy shit, Rebecca. Are those your real tits? I feel like a teenage boy. I can't stop staring at them. Where did you get those?
My mum.
I can't believe you stopped this from running. I would have shown everyone.
Right. I really need to get on.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You two have such great chemistry. Like, had you worked together before?
Yeah, it's really hard work, because in real life I can't stand her.
You never know, do you? I mean, like, you never know how it's gonna go. And I'm not gonna lie, I think whether the show had been a success or not, I think that Hannah coming into my life has genuinely made me less frightened to grow up. And,
oh my love, I think we would have collided anyway. I just don't think that the universe would have kept us two apart. I think it would have happened somewhere else down the line, like
yeah,
okay.
It feels like a past life thing, or I don't know, something very, very precious.
So
very precious.
This was the first time you guys had met?
Yeah.
Unreal.
She literally, we were literally, I walked around the corner. I walked in, I'm going to be honest, I walked into the bathroom. She was coming out of the bathroom, and we both just went, hi. Done.
Amazing.
Wasn't it, Juno?
Yeah, no, it was instant. It was literally instant. And do you know what is so cool about it is that the relationship between the two of us on camera has also, I think, been very inspiring to women watching the show. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we can also sit here and say, like, actually, that's not fake. That's so real. And supporting each other through life, whether that's in personal ways, whether that's in business ways, whether that's in, you know, fashion choices, boyfriend issues, what to eat, what not to, you know, overthink, all of it. Women, when you have a best girlfriend, you just support them through whatever is going on. And I think people have been surprised to see that on a show, especially between two women that are at different moments in their lives and are of different ages and going through different stages. And it's just a perfect example of, like, actually just being kind to women is so important, and they guide you through life because sometimes they know things that you haven't been through yet, and sometimes they remind you of things you have been through. You know, it's just, and I feel really proud that we've gotten to put that on camera as well as have it off camera.
Yeah, it's almost like it's our own relationship feeds the writer's room as well, which is really lovely to see, that they just observe us and they can't help but write it into the show, which is really special and unique.
Well, and it is, Juno, you mentioned, and you know, it is rare to see female characters supporting each other. They're not competitive.
No competitiveness.
Yeah, not pitted against each other, which shouldn't be unusual, but it is.
Right. And I do think that's important to, fans of the show. They love to see that relationship. So we do get a little hint here and there of Rebecca and Keeley's lives before we meet them. And maybe we'll see more in season 2. But I'm wondering, for each of you, did you come up with any kind of backstory in your own mind for your character? Like Juno, did you have ideas of, Keeley's life before we first encountered her?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think she spent a lot of her life being observed by men and women as sexualized object, and had sort of utilized that, but also isn't shy of that, but has a lot more going on inside of her than that, and has actually got this enormous heart and really does want the best for people and wants to be seen for not just, being sexy in a magazine or being a hot shot footballer's girlfriend. But I think it's a really smart way that Rebecca and Keeley first bond over a beat like that, because it's something that actually a lot of times in life, women will be very judgmental of other women, of potentially taking their clothes off in moments, And so for Keeley to turn around to Rebecca and be like, wow, I would show everybody, I think it's quite empowering for Rebecca, And also I think it's also an example of Keeley. She's not embarrassed of her past, but it's not necessarily going to be her future. And I love that about her. She's somebody that owns her past, is existing in the present, and is excited about what the future is going to be.
Right. And Hannah, what about you? Had you thought about Rebecca's life?
Oh God, yes, because I was acutely aware that the only thing I asked Jason and Brendan and Brett and all the other writers was, I wanted to be very clear on the timeline of when she was with Rupert Mannion, her of an ex-husband. So they were together for 12 years, which at the time would, if I put it that she then met him when she was like 30 or something, I wanted to establish that she had a keen business brain of her own, but that she will have chosen at that point, when he came into her life, she would have chosen to take a step back and was very keen to become a mother. And that's why I had no idea that there would be all that which plays out in Ep 9 about Rupert moving on with young Rebecca and having a child. But I had wanted to create for myself the reason why she is so lost and heartbroken by Rupert is that he took the best years from her in terms of her fertility.
Right.
And had it transpires, to not have a child with her. And that I had no idea that would pay off so much for me to have that in my head, so that the first time you see Rupert in the gala scene, and she can't quite see him in the lights,
right,
and he appears, there is that love-hate thing for her, that he is undoubtedly the love of her life, but has caused her such significant pain. So that was my main process behind it, that when she then takes over and goes for the football club as a point of destroying the only thing that Rupert's ever really cared about,
right,
it then transpires that actually she could rise to the occasion, because she was a businesswoman before she met him, and before he kind of blindsided her with all that he was. So
right.
I was just glad that the two things that I felt very strongly about very much came into play.
Right. And Juno, how much did you know about Keeley's arc before you went in? Because, she could have just been the girlfriend character, but she obviously turns into so much more. Was that something you were aware of in terms of storyline when you signed on?
I didn't know it in full detail, but a big thing he talked about was the relationship between Keeley and Rebecca, which was one I was excited about, because again, something that I hadn't seen a lot of in television or film, really. It was like a Thelma and Louise kind of vibe to me, which to me is one of the greatest films ever, still to this day. I watch it almost on a weekly basis. And so that was something I was aware of. And then it was interesting, he actually recommended that I watch this film Bull Durham, which is with Susan Sarandon. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about. And so there's a kind of interesting love triangle going on there. And so when I watched that, I was like, cool, okay, interesting, because she wants to help the young hotshot, but is also falling in love with the one that's kind of dealing with that actually his career in the sports world is coming to an end, and what is that going to mean, and what's that, you know, what help is he going to need from that. And I think it was the gala scene was I thought that episode for Keeley was so magical, because the moment with Rebecca in the bathroom, where Rebecca also gives Keeley some insights, you know, and you really realize, oh, this relationship is solidified. Then you've got Jamie Tart and Keeley realizing, you know, oh, okay, this is maybe holding me back. And then Roy Kent calling her out and reminding her that accountability is really important. And that being a moment where she sees a grown-up and sees a grown-up with feelings that he maybe doesn't show often. And so that scene sort of summarized a lot, or that scene, I should say, that episode summarized a lot for me as Keeley as a character.
That's great. Yeah. So, you know, the cast is filled with writer, actor, comedians. You know, you have Jason Sudeikis, obviously, Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent, Brendan Hunt, Coach Beard, and of course Nick Mohammed, who plays Nate. So funny.
Things with David Schwimmer, yeah.
So, I would imagine, is this a set where there's some improv happening?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Also moments where actually genuinely you have to re-go because you screw up the take by being like,
oh, it's horrendous. It's horrendous for that.
It's really hard.
I struggle a lot in scenes with Nick Mohammed. I mean, myself, Juno and myself and Nick doing a scene for this season, I was like, I don't know whether I want us to do more scenes together or not to do more scenes together, because this is hard work, man. It's really hard to not laugh, honestly. And it actually gets to the point where you're just like, right, nobody look at me, or I'm just going to have to slightly just look off your
before you've even started the scene, you're like,
and you think, oh my God, time is money, sort your shit out, and you just can't.
Do you participate in the improv? I know, you know, some performers are very comfortable with it, others, you know, are not used to it. How does that play out? Or are you just sort of reacting to what these other performers throw at you?
I purposely keep myself, because Rebecca is very much the metronome, I make sure that she is keeping that rhythm, particularly with Jason, because if he's in one of those moods when he's doing this, I have to do that extra much, which is quite funny to be part of. But God, the first few episodes that he and I shot together with all that first concert, best concert, I was like, I'm just fangirling, stop talking. You know, that was really hard, but I've kind of got my shit together with him now. It's Juno and Nick that are the problem now.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I might, and sometimes I might not. It sort of depends on the day. Because again, sometimes I'm still kind of hyper aware of the fact that I don't know, I'm nervous that if I try and improvise, it's just going to be so embarrassing. But then sometimes it does work. Sometimes the back and forth feels good, and you test it out. And the honest truth is, the cast that we're working with, even if you do open your mouth and try and improvise and it falls flat, they don't judge you for it. They're unbelievably awesome about it that I would say I do more than I have ever in my life.
That's great. So, you know, obviously, even though the show takes place in the world of Premier League football, you don't have to be interested in football, or as we call it, soccer, to enjoy the show. In fact, we have a clip from the finale where Keeley and Rebecca are talking about the sport. Let's take a look.
Oh, this sport. I've forgotten how stressful it is when you actually give a shit.
I have a confession to make.
Ooh.
I've never really cared about football. I know it sounds insane, but I know how to act at a match. Referee! Offside, you turnip!
God, you're awful.
You believe me? Isn't my heart? It's never really been in it, you know? But today I care very much.
That's so sweet.
I haven't seen that clip in ages. That's such a lovely moment.
Are you guys football fans in real life, or did you have to fake it?
I was thrilled that Rebecca doesn't have to be, a football aficionado, because that would have taken an awful lot more research. I was more than happy for her to be a businesswoman who happens to have found herself in football. It's like an actress who's found herself in a football show.
Yeah.
So, Keeley has very fabulous style, and I'm wondering, Juno.
Just wait for season 2. It just gets better and better.
I'm wondering if there are any clothes from her wardrobe in season 1 that you kind of wanted to accidentally take home with you.
I would say a good amount of it. And that's where me and Keeley also, we can cross over, because actually I used quite a lot of my own personal
I was going to
pieces.
say, let's get it round the right way, shall we?
Well, no, I don't. I do use quite a lot of my, like a lot of the jewelry. Most of the jewelry is my own, and some of the clothing pieces are my own. But Jackie, who is just so brilliant, our costume designer, and Nikki, who does my makeup, have been so awesome at collaborating with creating this creature who is so fashion fabulous and has such a good time with fashion. And what was really cool about season 2 as well is that Jackie reached out to me about wardrobe stuff, and so did Nikki, sending me, Nikki sent me a lot of options of hair ideas and makeup ideas, and then Jackie asked me about brands that I had found or that I was interested in wearing. So then I got to do some research into some brands maybe people wouldn't necessarily know about a huge amount, but then I get to wear them on the show. And then it's there was a brand, De La Valley, which one of my best friends who is actually a casting director for fashion, she's called Tallulah Bernard, and she's friends with the girls who designed for De La Valley, and I wore them a lot in the show. And one of the pivotal outfits that I loved was the green kind of chinoise dress that me and Roy have our first kiss in, because that was an important outfit, and it was in the karaoke scene to be in this electric green, where there's I was really excited about that dress, and I would like to own that in real life for sure.
Speaking of the karaoke scene, Hannah, can you tease whether or not you'll be singing in season 2?
Well, I'll put it this way. I said, I'm obviously not going to be singing in season 2 to the powers that be. And they went, yeah.
TBD.
TBD. I see. Okay. Hannah, you've talked before about how bad the biscuits were actually in real life that you had to eat. And
there's poor guys that made them, but they really were horrible.
So I'm asking, I don't think this is a spoiler. Can you just tease if they've at least improved the recipe for you in season 2?
They have. I think when they hear one person so consistently talk down about their product, they're going to do something about it. But it was my own fault, because I decided that Rebecca would be an emotional eater. When she found something that was like, her crack, I just put it in that she would find some kind of comfort in them. So I don't know whether they have made them better, or whether it's just like an old comfy cozy cardigan that as soon as I was like, oh no, I think I'd have biscuits in this scene. And it's so funny because our prop department go, do you want biscuits in this scene? And I'm like, obviously. And every time they give me them, I'm like, oh, there we go. It's like an old friend.
Yeah.
But not only that, you also specifically choose like which moment of biscuit eating you're at when they say an action. So it will be a decision of how much biscuit has already been engulfed and how much is still left. I've noticed that with you. It is a choice of how much.
But it's so funny because our prop man, Matt, he's just like, Han, do you think you'd be halfway through that one, or do you still want 3/4, mate? And I'm like, there's like an exact because you don't want to be left with a mouthful of food.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that they will be back.
I'm glad that everyone seemed to think I liked them. It just means that I was just doing a good acting job that day.
Absolutely. And I know, you obviously can't, tease many specifics, but I guess I would say, for people who are maybe joining the show now, or you want them to join the show before season 2 and sort of enjoy it, what would you pitch to them, Juno, of like why this is a show that they might like?
My immediate reaction coming from my heart was that the fact that, you know, getting to come back and do season 2 and play Keeley has genuinely helped with my mental health during this crazy time to be alive. And I'm somebody that definitely can go up and down with that stuff. And so to play a character that has this inner light and this ability to see really wonderful sides of people always has been such a pleasure. And I think the show as a whole, Ted Lasso, really encourages you to be a person that doesn't judge books by their cover and really wants to get to know people and wants to get to know their full journey and be surprised by people.
It really has helped so many people get through a very challenging few years. So thank you so much. It's been such a joy to talk to you both. Thank you to our friends at Apple TV Plus and to Hannah and Juno for joining us today. And to everyone listening from wherever you are, thank you for joining us for Half Hour With.